Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode number 20. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an AmLaw 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and thank you for joining me today. So we are going to be talking about legal sales funnels. So this is going to be most relevant to law firm attorneys, and this is really whether you are a solo or in the largest firm in the United States. It may not be as relevant for in-house or governmental attorneys, but if you are just interested in business and how it works, I think you'll still find it helpful and interesting. Now, before we begin, I want to share with you that my beta testing group for my Career Clarity course, it begins July 6th, but the deadline to sign up is June 30th, and we are already getting close to capacity. But if you are in any way stuck or frustrated or curious even to options for changes in your career, whether it's within the company that you're already with, changing to another company, another role, or getting out of law completely, I invite you to join my beta testing group. And you can learn all about it and sign up at hustleandflowpodcast.com/beta. Okay, now let's get to the topic for today, legal sales funnels. So if you've been following me at all, you already know that the biggest thing that I preach and teach is to stay really, really focused, because when you get focused on something, you are going to get better results. And that's really what a sales funnel is all about. Now, let me start by saying, when I was practicing law full-time at a law firm, I had never even heard the term sales funnel. It wasn't until I started my own business and started learning about more business concepts, learning about marketing, learning about sales, that I learned about this concept, which is very popular in the business world. And I wondered, why are we not talking about this, and why are we not teaching this to lawyers? And I really do think that sometimes we get so stuck in our heads and we get so stuck in our little bitty tiny legal box that we think that things have to be done a certain way. And we fail to ever look to see what the rest of the world is doing, especially the business world. So I guess it doesn't really surprise me that we don't talk about sales funnels in law firms, but we should be. And that's why I'm talking about it today. I want to give you a leg up on your competition and just help you improve your own game. Okay, so one of the biggest mistakes that I think attorneys make when they are focused on business development is that they are completely scattered without a real strategy. So tell me if this sounds familiar. You have all kinds of targets or contacts in your Rolodex. And when I say Rolodex, I guess I mean your computer. And so you go to conferences, you go to meetings, and you collect business cards, and you might even put it into your system, but you maybe never reach back out. And if you do, it's pretty sporadic. You go to these networking events that may or may not have any tie or similarity, but you think that going to network events is important, whether it's a bar association, a lawyer event, a business event, a community event. You know, you're just really active and you are trying to meet people at your kid's soccer game, and, you know, you're just out there in the community and you try to speak occasionally, right? So maybe you're speaking at a CLE or you're on a panel. Maybe you are writing articles. But nothing is connected, and there's no strategy behind it other than you think that the more that you do, the more likely you are to bring in business. right? So when I do webinars on this, I have this visual. I have this picture that I show of this woman that is blowing a dandelion. And that really is, to me, what business development looks like in the legal industry. You just take a deep breath because you're exhausted, and you blow really hard at this dandelion, and you're just trying to scatter seeds as wide and far as possible with the thought that if you have enough contacts and touches out there, one of them will pay off. Does that sound familiar? Well, if that's working for you, great. By all means, there is no need to change things up. If you have more work than you can handle, you're good. If, on the other hand, that's providing some traction, but not enough to keep your plate full, or you really don't have much to show from your business development efforts at all, I want to share with you a new approach, a focused approach, and one that salespeople in the business world use. Now, here's the thing. I know that as lawyers, you probably hate sales. I used to feel the same way. And to some extent, I still do. As a lawyer, you probably, and especially if you're a solo, you are probably getting all kinds of phone calls from vendors and consultants. When I was practicing, I used to get so many e-discovery phone calls. And these vendors are fierce, right? Like they will call you and email you all the time and honestly drive you a bit crazy trying to get on the phone with you or go to lunch with you. And then they just sell. And that does not feel good to most of us, right? We don't like it. And so as soon as we start to hear a sales pitch coming on, we go on alert and we start to back away and we don't trust the person, right? Like it can just feel pushy and slimy and we don't like it. So because of that, we're worried about selling ourselves. I mean, maybe you don't feel that way. I do. I find that when I am trying to sell a service or an offering, it just doesn't feel natural or good to me. Now, the problem is if you are in business to make a profit, and I hope you are, then you have to sell. Selling is a function of profitability. And we went to law school thinking that we were just going to be lawyers. But unless you are in-house or government or just not on a partnership track at all, you are in the business of marketing and sales. You are. And you can either resist against that or you can embrace it. And even though it might feel uncomfortable, it's still really important. It's a skill that we have to develop if we want to be successful. And I tell people all the time that are in law firms that feel like, they're getting a bad rap or people aren't treating them the way they should, or they're getting, biased and crazy comments in their reviews and evaluations. I always say, you know what? Those conversations will stop, or it will at least be overlooked if you have a book of business, right? I mean, you can all think of a rainmaker in your firm that does completely crazy things, perhaps inappropriate things, and it's always overlooked because they've got a book of business. So this is your number one weapon if you are in a law firm, is to have a book of business, a thriving book of business. And to do that, you have to make sales. And it doesn't have to be slimy. It doesn't have to be icky. And it doesn't have to be pushy. So that's what I want to share with you today. How do you build out a sales funnel that helps you, one, automate your system so that you're not spending a ton of time doing it. And when you are spending time doing it, it's super efficient and effective. Okay. So what is a legal sales funnel? All right. I am going to try to give you a visual of this, but because you're listening and I can only describe it, I am going to provide for you a PDF visual on the show notes page that you can download. So go to hustleandflowpodcast.com/20 and you can download that PDF that's going to actually show you the visual. Okay, so we all know what a funnel is though, right? So it's, wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. and it looks like a triangle. So at the very top, this is where people come into your system. They come into your funnel. These are prospects, potential clients. And it could be a referral source from another lawyer or someone else, or it could be an actual client. So it might be business, but if you're in family law, it might be a person. This is where you've got potential prospects. And the whole world, right, is technically a potential prospect. But if you speak to all, you are speaking to none. So when you're working your funnel, you're going to have some type of theme for that funnel. So a few people will have multiple funnels, and I'll get to that a little bit later. That's okay, but the fewer funnels, the better. Again, this goes back to if you dilute your focus, you dilute your efforts. So you're going to start at the funnel with the prospects coming in, and then you have different layers. So think about this as like rings or rungs that are within that funnel. So you're going to keep losing people. That is the idea. The idea is to actually lose people. Or you can keep them stuck at a certain phase for a while, but you eventually want to progress them down. Okay? So people are coming in, very wide brim, and then you're slowly, maybe you can speed it up. We'll talk about that. You're going to get them to move down through this so that by the time they get to the bottom of the funnel, when they come out, they are a buyer. They are a client. Okay? All right, so let's break that down a little bit. Let's use an example so that we can walk through what it would look like. And so that this will apply to as many people as possible, let's just have a really generic funnel. And we're just going to call it a referral funnel, right? So these are people that we think might refer us work. So this is going to be a pretty basic funnel. All right, so when someone comes into your funnel, they are a prospect. So let's say you go to a conference and you meet some people that are doing the same thing as you. And if they have a conflict, you want them to refer the work to you. Or maybe they have a complementary business. Maybe they're doing estate work, but they don't do tax work, and you're a tax attorney. So you might then want to put the estate attorneys in that referral funnel so that they will send the tax work to you. Or maybe it's completely unrelated and you just want them to think of you for your specialty when they get someone that asks them for who does that. All right, so that's the idea. Prospect comes in and maybe you get a business card. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just meet them and you go look up the information. But that very first piece of your funnel is going to be tracking their contact information. So maybe you do that in an Excel sheet. Maybe you do it in a Word document. Maybe you have a CRM system. So that's a customer relationship management system. In the business world, the most popular one is Salesforce. I know some law firms that use Salesforce, but not many. If you're in a really large law firm, you probably have a system in place, although a lot of people don't like to use it because they fear someone's going to look at what they're doing and try to pounce on their opportunities. So if you're at a big, large law firm, you might already have something in place. If you don't want to use that, then you can again use Excel or come up with your own system. If you are in a small law firm, I highly recommend that you do have a software system to track this. Although if you want, you can use Excel. I used Excel for the first 2 years in my business, and I now use what's called Active Campaign. So if you are on my email list, you've probably seen that name come across because all of the emails that you get from me are from my provider, Active Campaign. But Active Campaign is not just an email provider. It's also got a CRM aspect to it. So when I am working on law firm sales, so I think you guys know I offer masterminds to law firms where I put together a diverse group of partners to really help them go from the income level to the equity level. Or if the firm just has one tier, it's, how to move up in the bands and the credits. And so I have a CRM system where I am tracking all of my contacts and where they are in my funnel. Okay. So it's the same concept if you have people that are in your funnel and you're trying to get referral work from them. When it comes to referral work, it could be that you just need to be top of mind. So when a call comes in, you don't want them racking their brains for, do I know a tax attorney? You want them to think of you first and foremost. And generally what that requires is just a constant touch. Now, if it's a referral, you probably don't need to be doing something every week or every month. Quarterly might be sufficient. So you're going to have to kind of figure out what you want your steps to be, but you want steps. Okay. So someone comes into your funnel and you've got their contact information. Well, what's next? You should already have in your funnel what that second step is. And that second step could be a phone call. It could be an email, and it could be just to say hello. Maybe it's to send them something that is relevant to the conversation you had when you met them. Maybe it is to provide them more information about what you do. That said, you really only want to send that if they invited it. It's probably a bit too much if you just meet them at a conference or meet them at, the soccer field and you had a very casual conversation and you didn't even really talk about what you do. You're not going to want to in that first email say, oh, and here's all the information on what I do. Here's my, brochure, my services, hire me, anytime. Maybe you need a step between that. Okay. But you can outline it. And sometimes you can move people along faster than others. So you might be able to skip a few steps. So for example, if on the soccer field or if at that conference, you guys actually talked about, what you do, and there was a specific request for, oh, I think I could refer work to you, or I'd like to learn more information. Well, then you skip straight ahead to that, right? But you want to be tracking it and you want to know what those steps are so that you're consciously deciding where to go next with them. Okay. So in the funnel, at the very top, they come in, you get their contact information. And then the next step might be just reaching out to say hello. And that should probably be within a week or two of you meeting them. The sooner, the better. And we all know we often have good intentions. I'm guilty, where you come back home from a conference or something, you're trying to catch up, and those business cards just go to the side. And then like a month or two has passed, and then you're like, well, now it's too late, right? So you just want to get into the habit of doing this. And I recommend you go ahead and set aside business development time each and every week to make sure that you're doing this. All right. So then maybe the third step is to send them information about what you do. Now here you might have an email template already prepared. Maybe you do have a PDF or brochure already prepared. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, but you do want to personalize it and you don't want it to feel cold or like a copy and paste. All right. And then the next step might be maybe coffee, maybe lunch, maybe a phone call. Again, part of this depends on your personality and what you have time for and what you enjoy, but go ahead and have what's that next touch, right? Okay. So then you're going to put the next one. So for example, you might just then put someone into a quarterly contact where you just pick up the phone or you email them on a quarterly basis. I mean, that could be a step in and of itself that you keep people in all the time, right? But you wait until they go down so many rungs before they get into that spot, and then they just get on rotation. Or maybe you're inviting them to then something else. Maybe it's to dinner. Or if it is a conference that you think you might see them at all the time, that's something that you would enter into, your Excel sheet or your CRM system so that when you are on rotation, or you already have calendared when that conference is coming up so that you can reach out to them and say, hey, are you going to be there? And even if they're not, the fact that you had a touch is going to, again, keep you top of mind. And then obviously, once they actually refer something to you, that means they ended the funnel and they are a buyer. That doesn't mean it ends, though. Part of why it's called CRM, client relationship management, is you want to always stay in touch with clients and you want to continue to nurture that relationship, because we all know a current or former client is more likely to work with you again or send you work than a cold prospect. So don't forget about the clients. Just because they get to the end of the funnel doesn't mean that you don't still need to stay in touch with them. Okay, so that's a generic just referral funnel, but you might also have other funnels depending on your expertise. So if you're a family law attorney, your funnel might be one, getting prospects. Maybe it's into a webinar. Maybe it's into a workshop, right? This might just be free, or maybe it's just getting them to your website. And then the next step might be getting them to sign up for your newsletter. And then, coming in for a consult. You really just want to reverse engineer how most people come to you, right? And sometimes you'll notice that there are some gaps and there are some ways for you to improve that system. But for the most part, when you get clients, they're often coming in similar ways. So you can just reverse engineer it and say, okay, well, how did the last 5 clients come in and what steps did I take to get them in? And again, there's always ways to improve, but that's where I would start. So you might have a few different funnels based upon your different areas of expertise. I know I was talking about referrals and family law, but this also applies to if you had, a securities law practice. This is the same for a law firm and for, really high-end work. For many attorneys at large law firms, you're never going to get the book of business from a really large client that the firm already has. Okay, so you need your own funnel. And to get that work, you're probably going to have to work in a team. And so, maybe it's not your funnel. Maybe it's a team funnel. But your prospects might come in not through conferences or otherwise, but you may just identify who you want to work with and who you want to target. So it could just be a matter of you identify them as a prospect and write their name in the system. And then you might be trying to figure out, well, what boards are they on or what conferences do they attend? Where will they be speaking? And then you're just trying to get in to meet them and to build a relationship. And this could be a really long play, right? Like this could be a 5-year funnel, but you're going to be more likely to actually land that client if you have a thought out system on the front end. And so then, maybe some other steps are you having articles or you speaking and inviting them or sending them clips, sending them, wins from your own cases. So again, the funnel concept works whether you are a solo doing family law or you're at one of the largest law firms in the nation doing high-end security work. Okay. But hopefully you can see, how this funnel keeps you really focused and systematized. I think a lot of us fear being too specialized or too focused because we think that we'll miss out on an opportunity. And I will tell you, so many litigators, what I hear is either they want to be a trusted advisor or they want to be like the fixer. They just handle all your problems. But people aren't going to remember you for that because that's what they already think of when they think of lawyers. And they may already have a trusted advisor or they may already have a fixer. It's harder to recall something super generic. So the sales funnel helps you stay top of mind. And if you're staying top of mind, they still may think of you for other things or ask for your advice. So again, it might feel a bit uncomfortable to get focused, but it really does increase your results and ultimately increase your bottom line. Now, towards the end of that funnel, at some point, you have to ask for the business. I think a lot of us, because we have this aversion to sales, we want to just have a relationship with people, right? And we think that if we have a good relationship, they'll hire us, but that's often not how that works. They need to know, 1, what you offer, and 2, they need to know that you want to work with them. So much of the literature and research on sales, it shows that if you just ask for the business, you're more likely to get it. And I was actually talking to in-house counsel recently, and she was telling me that she receives cold calls. And although she doesn't like them, she does pick them up and she does eventually work with the people that call her. And just FYI for my women out there, she said a female attorney has never cold called her. It only comes from the white men. But it works. She said, despite her thinking that she doesn't like that, she finds herself building relationships with these people and eventually hiring them. So, and the studies back this and support this. You have to ask for the business. And maybe we'll do a completely different episode just on asking for business. Now, when you ask for business, it will upset some people and you may then lose them from your funnel. I will tell you, every single time I send out an email that sends someone to a website with a service or an offer, I always have at least one unsubscribe. But here's the thing. If someone is offended that you are offering something for sale, they were never going to buy from you in the first place. If they are just wanting to get things for free from you, if they are just wanting to have a friendly relationship with you and are going to be offended or put off by you asking for business, they were never a true prospect to begin with. And here's the thing. When you're out networking, when you're out at these conferences, yes, it is so great to meet people that you like and you want to stay connected to. But let's not forget that we are in a profitable business model. Like, we live in America. We believe in capitalism. I don't know why it has started to become this weird thing that like we shouldn't be making money, but we are in the business of making money. And so you have to get outside of your comfort zone and you have to ask for the business, and just know that if that turns someone away, they were never a true prospect to begin with, and probably not a true friend. Okay, so I'm going to role model for you what it looks like to actually ask for a sale. September 24th through the 27th, I will be at Miraval for a partner retreat. I lead it every fall, and it is exclusively for female attorneys that are owners of law firms. And that can be a partner, shareholder, a member. And if you are of counsel or you're a senior associate, as long as you're actively working to build a book of business, you're also invited. And it's called Life and Law in Balance. And it's really taking how do you become more successful? How do you achieve more success? But do it in a way that is satisfying, that is aligned with your values, that's aligned with your personality, and doesn't sacrifice your personal life. So we have an entire day that is dedicated to business development and creating your plans. And I'm there to assist and help you with your plan, with your sales funnels. We talk about a lot more than just sales funnels. So if you fall in that category and you would like some business development help and you would like to do it in a way that feels really good, I would like to invite you to come join me at Miraval. And the room block ends, I believe it's July 25th. So you're going to want to sign up before then, and I would love to have you. So I am asking for that sale. All right. I hope you have found this episode to be helpful. Again, if you want to see that visual of what a funnel looks like, you can go to hustleandflowpodcast.com/20. I want to see as many of you rise. I want to see as many of you be successful. I want to see as many of you have great books of business as possible. So this is a big one. It is a key driver to growing your book of business. So get the download, go check it out, and then start to build your sales funnel and let me know how it's going. You can leave a comment on the show notes page, or you can just email me. I love to hear from people. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. Are you feeling stuck or frustrated in your career? Are you exhausted from trying to balance so many competing demands? Do you have big dreams and goals, but no time to focus on them? Then join me in a small group of female attorneys for the Life and Law in Balance retreats at Miraval. They're coming up in June and September. To learn more and register, go to lifeandlawinbalance.com. I'd love to meet you there.